Okay, so first project that I started, which I'll go over, is going to be the fuel lines. So this is a section of my old fuel line. Um, See, it's all kinked, and there's like random hose clamps. Like this section of fuel line is different than this section of fuel line from the actual physical fuel line point of view. Um, Not really sure what the fuck the guy had it before me was doing. Um, it is what it is. So, I got 4 feet of new fuel line. This is what's left of it. I've already put some of it on the bike. As you can see, this shit's super flexible, right? That's what it's supposed to be like. That's supposed to be all dry rotted and fuck, I can't even. So, the other thing about getting actual BMW fuel line is that if you do that rather than just go to Napa and get their bulk, $4 a foot fuel line, is this shit's in metric. And the ID is the correct size to fit these T-fittings, all right? These T-fittings, and then going up into your gas tank on the petcock there, you should not need a clamp, okay? You can tell if your bike does not have the correct fuel line. One, if it's not braided. This is like a fabric braided outer fuel line, really nice. And two, if there's hose clamps all over the fucking thing. Because if there's hose clamps, that means that they've got like the original T's that are metric, and then they got normal SAE fuel line, and shit's not really made to work together, so you gotta hose clamp it because the fuel line's oversized, and, it just looks like shit. So, to do that, I'll run you through what I did. I'm not going to do it. I already did it. It's very simple. Pull all your fuel lines off. If you want to rebuild your petcocks, that's super easy. It's just this bolt. In there's 2 straws that are different lengths for your reserve and your primary. You can buy replacement like copper mesh filters that fit over those. If you have new ones of those, you should not need an inline fuel filter from what I've been told and done research on. I guess we'll find out if that's correct or not if I still get a bunch of shit in my fuel lines and it gets built up. So, pull all your fuel lines off. This one is your crossover line. This one goes all the way through. Other side of the bike comes out over here. You can see it there. So, there's your air box. Your air box is split like this. Mine's like not really meeting together. Huh. See that? There's a little lip there. I wonder what the fuck's that about. Anyway, I guess we'll have to check that out. Pull this screw out, right? Obviously, if you have a choke on there, this is a threaded through bolt. Some kind of, I think it's an M5 or M8 bolt. It goes all the way through. This housing itself is threaded. So it threads into this, goes through the airbox, and then you have a nut and a lock washer on the ass end of it that secures it to the airbox. Okay? There's a specific place, I don't know if you can see that, on the airbox that your choke has to go. See, it's like machined out for the choke to sit. That's very important. These T's, they're like $3 a piece tops, I think. Just get them. All right. If you're replacing everything, don't put your old shitty T's on them. Get aluminum ones, not plastic ones. This is what I got from Moto Ohio. Totally worth it. And then it runs the ass end of your carb. Back down in here, there's a little nipple if you pull that fuel line off. The other reason you want the correct fuel line from Beamer is that if you do not use it, the Napa shit is oversized OD for this opening in your airbox. So what'll happen is if it's an oversized, then you're gonna crush your crossover fuel line, right? Right when you put this on. When you put this on, it's gonna crush that, and you're not gonna get good crossover fuel. It's also just kind of janky. Man, do it right. You know what I mean? So that's why I went and got that. That fuel line's expensive. I mean, on 4 feet, I think I spent like $50. So don't have sticker shock. It's totally worth it. You don't need hose clamps or fiddle fuck around with different sizes. Also, your T's have to go like this. Your crossover T's out of going over the airbox into this. Don't run this 90 degrees and have your, straight into here and then have your T coming off this way. That makes sense. Don't do that. Looks like shit. That's how my bike was on one side. Was the other way on the other one. So I don't know how you replace one side and then don't look at the other and see how the fuck it goes together and then do it 2 different ways. Like, at least be consistent if you're going to do it 2 different ways. So my dad's buddy showed me that like the first time he ever saw the bike, and about 6 years later, or how the fuck I'm old am I now? Yeah, like 6 years later, I'm finally getting around to doing it, Mark. So there you go. So that's really all it is. You just cut your shit to size so it fits, tee it off, put it in the carb, and then this is going to come up when I put the gas tank on, and it's going to run off of here straight into the gas tank in just one length, and that's all there is to it. This is where your air filter is, so you might as well change your air filter while you're in here. I forgot, this screw comes out, this thing pulls off. There's a bolt on like the edge of like your other side. There's a bolt that runs in here. Get a crescent wrench or an open-ended wrench or whatever. Just loosen that. Don't pull it all the way off. And then this comes out as a clip. You'll probably have to pull your air intake stuff out. This is where it goes on your carb, like that, if you can imagine. Probably just yank that, wiggle it off. It comes off pretty easy. And then bolt it all back together. And that's how you redo your fuel lines to your crossover line. I've heard of some guys, if you don't want to get in there and clean it out, I had like, looked like a mouse was in there at some point. There was like shells and seed and shit in the air box. So I went in there, vacuumed it out, cleaned it all out. Probably worth doing if you haven't opened that up in a while. Put a new air filter in while you're in there. They're these big things. You can see my air filter was all shitty. Yeah, put a new air filter in. You're in there already. I can do it. Some guys have talked about if you just have like a break in your fuel line on the crossover and you just want to change that, or you need to limp home or whatever. I have heard of guys just being able to like loosen this air box enough to shove the fuel line through. I honestly don't know how you do that. That sounds pretty hard to me, but I have heard of guys doing that. But I didn't know it was in there. I tore the whole thing apart, and that was how I did my fuel lines. If you have any questions, comment down below. And yeah, thanks for watching. Catch you later. Bye.